TARDIS interiors are something that's very near and dear to my heart. One of my favourite aspects of Doctor Who is seeing a new TARDIS interior, whether it's one of the best or one of the not so best. And recently, Doctor Who got a new one, and in today's video I wanted to explain why, over time, this could become the best TARDIS console room ever. But before we get into it, if you could do me a teeny tiny little favour and click that subscribe button, it'd be very much appreciated. We are trying to get as many subscribers as possible before the end of the year, so any support would mean a ton. So in order for us to talk about how this TARDIS could become the best TARDIS of all time, we first need to talk about what makes this TARDIS so good as is in the first place. In my opinion, of course. First of all, the scale of it. This is by far the biggest TARDIS interior ever, I think. Even bigger than the TV movie one, which was a previous record holder, I believe. And that really goes a long way in conveying the bigger on the inside nature of the ship. It finally looks massive. It doesn't look like a little extension, it looks like a huge room. And I mean, the scene of David Tennant happily running around the TARDIS just perfectly encapsulates that. I'm so glad they decided to do that. Apparently that was David Tennant's suggestion, and my god was it a good one. It's so fun, so full of joy, and I love the music in that scene as well. The second thing that I love is the roundels. They've gone for a classic style of roundels with a grey wall, which I absolutely love. The TARDIS console is a beautiful fusion of classic and modern with a white sort of finish, but with sort of some rustic and kind of slapped together elements of the Tennant and Eccleston TARDIS. Specifically the copper wiring and the kind of weathering on the buttons. I really like it as a combination. We also see the return of the Sky High time rotor, which I absolutely love, and again really just goes to show the scale of this room. And I really love the shape of the console. It's massive while maintaining the hexagonal shape. It actually somewhat reminds me of the cancelled season 27 TARDIS, minus the floating aspect of course. And not to harp on it too much, but I genuinely think this is a massive improvement over the Whittaker interior, where one of my main complaints about that one is you could barely see any of the buttons on that console. The way it was designed and the way it was lit, you couldn't see any of the distinct buttons on the console, and I think that really devalued a lot of like the TARDIS piloting scenes. Other than that big lever, that's the only thing you can ever recognise. With this, that's not a problem. You can make out so many little unique doodad things, which is very cool. The next thing I wanted to mention is the ramps. We have a fully accessible TARDIS in New Who for the first time. I know people will say that the classic Who TARDISes were relatively wheelchair accessible, but this is the first TARDIS with levels to have ramps, which I just think is a really nice quality of life touch. And something that probably should have been done a while ago, but hey ho, I'm happy it's here now. And it allows the TARDIS to have the scale of, say, the Capaldi console room, whilst also being completely accessible. And I mean, just on a personal level, being a disabled fan for years, you know, wondering if I'd be able to access the TARDIS, knowing that I can with this one, it's just a nice thing to see personally, really. And I mean, from a storytelling perspective, it's going to mean we're going to have the opportunity to get characters like Ruth Madeley on the TARDIS, and indeed Bernard Cribbins, as he in the specials is in a wheelchair, likely due to the man's age at the time of filming, and we may well see Lenny Rush on the TARDIS as well. So not only is it just a cool thing to see, it also does have real-world utility with the show, so I think that's a really important thing, and why already it becomes one of the best TARDISes by default for me. I love all the different spanning rooms as well. One of my things that I hate with some TARDIS console rooms is how they feel like there's nothing beyond them, when it feels like there's no other rooms or areas in the TARDIS, it's just that room. This has so many different walkways that could lead to anywhere. Very much like Matt Smith's first TARDIS, which I love. One of the biggest new features though, and one of the things that I think will give this TARDIS life for a very long time, is the RGB colour changing and lighting changing. This means that this TARDIS is by far the most multi-purpose TARDIS we've ever had. Similar to how the Capaldi TARDIS could change its central light, however with this, it can change every single light in the console room. So far we've seen it do, I believe, red when the TARDIS is in danger, we've seen it do blue, purple, green, and we've seen it do orange in a new clip from, I believe, a Russell T Davies interview program. And if you look at the top, you can also see where the lights move along with the TARDIS dematerializing, which is also a nice callback to the weird, like, clockwork thing the Capaldi TARDIS had going on. In terms of the doorway, they've gone for a more sort of Tennant-y thing with a kind of enclosed space for the door to fit in. I will say I do kind of miss the exterior box being part of the entryway. I actually quite like that as a feature of the Whittaker one, to give it some credit. But I don't mind this, and it's nice to see the phone back on the backside of the TARDIS doors. But the title of this video was how this TARDIS could be the best of all time, because I don't think it's the best quite yet. But with a few tweaks in the future, I genuinely believe it can be. First things first is obviously the lighting itself. Now, we've seen it do blue and we've seen it do white. Now, I think it's very true that the lighting can very much change the atmosphere of a set. As I mentioned previously, when you look at the Capaldi era, a lot of people didn't vibe with the initial Smith version, but really liked the warmness of the Capaldi one. And I think with the TARDIS being able to change lighting, you can really have it fit scenes and have it fit Doctors in a way you couldn't with some of the TARDISes. I've also seen some people say the pure white version is a bit too bright for them, but again, I feel like that's something that will be ironed out with future episodes. I mean, it doesn't seem like we're going to be seeing it as pure white kind of default form very much, as it immediately got switched to blue by David in that scene. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about that too much, and I think they could probably be dimmed, as they do look dimmer when different colours are on. Another thing though, which is kind of the core complaint I've seen about this TARDIS thus far, is that it feels a bit empty. Now, I do completely understand this. However, I firmly believe it will be cluttered with more stuff as time goes on. I like the idea that as Ncuti Gatwa's era continues, we'll see him collect more and more stuff that fills out the space, as it has been confirmed via the Doctor Who commentary tracks that Ncuti Gatwa will be keeping this TARDIS.
I went on set today where Ncuti and Millie were filming, and there was a beautiful shot with as a crane sort of passes across it. It's such good value, isn't it?
And we also saw in Doctor Who Unleashed, there's a very brief clip where you can see the TARDIS jukebox, which was in the leaked images. Now, we don't see that in the Starbeast, but maybe they're just testing it out for space. But I'd love it if it was part of Ncuti Gatwa's TARDIS, because I could totally see him dancing around that TARDIS to different music. But yeah, my point is, I think if you fill this up with a bit more stuff, and the fact that you can change the lighting around, I think it's the most adaptable TARDIS, and the one that will probably end up lasting the longest, because it looks so expensive and gorgeous, and I feel like there's so much space to do things in. We also heard that there's going to be drone shots in there, which means that directors are going to be able to do even more with the space. And on the topic of that, in the commentary tracks, it said that each roundel is individually lit. So in other words, they can light up individual ones different colours, they can spell out different words, and stuff like that. So this is definitely the most fancy TARDIS we've ever had. So I think the story potential of that is huge. Obviously, they said that it can write out messages and stuff. So imagine if there's an alien race trying to contact the Doctor, and they spell out SOS on the TARDIS or something using the roundels. Stuff like that. There's story potential in it as well as just looking really cool. This feels like a TARDIS that's meant to last, and I love it so dearly. But what do you guys think about the new TARDIS interior? Let me know in the comments below what you think. Like the video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you later.